Don't be a bot, as the kids say. A non-playable character, a robot, a bot, automated bot. Don't be a bot. I'm making this terminology to fit in the video, and you'll see where I'm going with this. Um, so I'm reading my notes, so don't mind me. So how does this happen? Your mental state is often triggered by your physical environment, and that mental state causes your brain to release chemicals in response to the mental state you've adopted. So if you've adopted a stressful state, you're going to release cortisol, you're going to release adrenaline, depending how stressful, actually, I don't know. I'm not a biologist, so it might even could just be as little stress as being in the weight room for all I know. I have no idea. But you definitely release cortisol, and you even release cortisol when you just see the sun in the morning. So technically, to some degree, it's a stress response, but you want to feel that early in the morning for other reasons. We're not going to science here because that's not my specialty. I'm just going off of what I've learned. The state that you feel the most frequent, the mental state, that results in the chemicals released the most frequently, is going to be the state that becomes the most addictive, so to speak. On the happiness side of it, I think it's oxytocin. They say a lot of mothers show giving off this chemical, obviously after they've given birth to a child. So it's like it's associated with love and fulfillment, happiness. So we can use our thoughts, whether they're problems, any perception, problems, or our perception of the state of life, really, whether it's happy or dismal or problematic, we can use that to affirm our conditioning, to say, hey, um, this is how I want my life to feel. And so you can become addicted to the mental state that you occupy the most. Obviously, most people do this with negative mental states, negativity, negative thoughts. And so it's like you can become addicted to the negative thought because of the chemicals, not only because, but in large part on a physical level, because of the chemicals released from the stress response, the adrenaline, the cortisol. Your body's craving that more because it's felt it more and it feels like it needs that more. So here are the three things, and this is where the bot concept comes in. Here's the three things you need to focus on to elevate your stress. You need to have your attention on being a bot. And what I mean by being a bot, I mean you need to have your focused attention on your body, your outer environment, and your time. And as long as you're focused on those things, you will be limited to changing your life through these things. You're not focused on space, and by space I mean where you're at. Not only physically, or not so much physically, because that'd be like your outer environment, but more so internally. Where you're not focused on your space, where you are internally. How do I feel right now? You're focused on what does my life look like? How does my physical body look, or how does it feel physically? Sorry, that's a reminder I have on my computer, so I'll just play. How does my where am I at in my life at this time? Whether it's time on a long term basis or time on a immediate short term basis. If you're focused on those things, you can't focus on space, which is like how does my internal feel right now. And that's what's going to allow you to transcend space, where something that should on paper take you 8 years to do, you might be able to get it done in 1.5 because you're not focused on time. Because literally what you focus on is what it's going to take for you to transcend to be able to do what you're trying to do. And so, or it's not what's going to take for you to transcend. It's going to be what it takes as a prerequisite. So let me phrase that differently. If you focus on time, everything you do is going to take time. So if you think it's going to take you 8 years, it will take you 8 years because you're focused on the time. If you just focus on how you feel in the space of doing things, the thing that you know, practically speaking, could take you 10 years, 8 years, it might be able to take you 6 months. And it's not because you're going to be able to develop all the skills in 6 months that it would take 8 years. No, it's because opportunities are going to present themselves because you're internally in the right space. And so the solution to not being a bot, and I'm going to break this up in 4 parts. So this is part one of a 4-part series of videos. The solution of being a bot is to change the way you think and essentially open your heart to feeling higher frequency, elevated emotions. And so, this is where you get people have their different methods, and you just got to find what works for you. I'm only sharing this don't be a bot video so you understand why people become bots, because they're too focused on their body, their outer environment, and their time versus focusing on their space, or you could call that your inner environment. And so, this is where people say, hey, have a reason for gratitude every day. Some people say journal. Some people say meditate and breathe and spend time in silence. Some people say pray. There's no right or wrong. You probably already have something that works for you that you do the best. For me, I'm going to say I spend some silent time before I wake up and before I go to bed visualizing. I've been getting better about doing that almost every day. I write these affirmations in a notebook. I write the same affirmation. I don't switch it up. I've been doing that for about a month now, where I write affirmation morning, afternoon, and evening time. And even if I wake up late, I still treat it like the morning time, and then I wait a few hours, and then I do a noon time, even if it's like 5 o'clock. And then when I go to bed, I do an evening time. And the thing is, I wasn't getting it every day when I first started, but over time, I've been getting it pretty consistent. So like I've done it for about a month's worth of time, I'd say so far, but it wasn't consistent. So I'm just working until I get it consistently. And the goal is for me to be able to think that way without having to write it down. But I'm going to write it down as long as it takes until I start thinking that way just off of my thoughts. And so you got to find what works for you. Sometimes I journal. A lot of times I do try to shift my thinking to gratitude, to having gratitude, and do what works for you. I'm not saying reinvent the wheel. I'm just here sharing why people become bots, why people become addicted to different mental states, whether it be a positive one or a negative one. And just to understand that, well, I would say if you're becoming addicted to a positive mental state, it's more than likely you're not a bot, because you're probably learning to pay attention to how you feel inside. And as soon as you start feeling negativity on the inside, you say, okay, I have to shift this. Because you can't control your outer environment. You can't control how time elapses. The best way you can control it is to just not focus on it. Ironically, it's kind of a paradoxical thing. It's like, you would think to control something, you should focus on it. But in terms of time, the best way to impact time as far as making things move faster than they should practically or pragmatically move, the best way is to not focus on it, because then you get rid of the limitation of things taking time to occur or to fulfill. And yeah, so I'd say that's what you want to do. And part one, 3 more parts coming.